Hi everyone, my name is Aaron Day and I am coming to you from British Columbia in Canada. Many years ago I found out about wormwood. As a matter of fact, I lived in Australia when I was young and I hitchhiked across Western Australia. So when I discovered that there was a observatory in Western Australia called Wormwood, pointed south, made perfect sense to me, and I knew then. Naughty Beaver's made it even more clear now what's really happening. Steve Olson was the one, though, that I've been following the Wormwood System observers for years. And Terrell 03 and Steve, and also BP Earthwatch, Colonel Roy Potter, many other people who share some of the same beliefs of myself, kept prompting me to look more into the Word of Christ. And Steve in particular was adamant about it. Then one day he recommended I see the Global Witness. And from that very first moment, Derek Bros, his message, it penetrated my thick skull. I have read so much throughout my lifetime that I could fill a coliseum with the books that I've read. And in more recent times, I download, for example, Rhode Island's geoengineering case put toward the floor of the Congress. I read all sorts of things that, but I wasn't reading what I should have been reading, despite the fact that I'd go to Revelation 12 all the time to corroborate what I knew about the Red Dragon, which I believe is Dr. Robert Harrington identified it some 50 years ago as being Planet X. So I actually found the Word through science, and I still love science. But Derek has asked us to provide a testimony, and that is what this is all about. I cannot thank him enough, and I know it's not him, but it was his voice and his message that reached me. So he took action with his knowledge, and I am forever grateful. And that's why I want anyone who can hear what I have to say, for all ears to hear. Here's what it is that I downloaded the Book of Enoch, and this was prompted by Derek. I also, the Gospel of Thomas, which some people call it the fifth gospel. But I was just over there, I was up in the forest the day that I downloaded the Book of Enoch, and I got a voice in my head that just said the same thing over and over again. There is a message for you here. And I thought it was funny at first, looking around. There was nobody around. And I was led to walk further into the forest, and I took the next step when I got deep in there, and I saw these two giant owls staring, looking right at me. Now, that might not be so uncommon for this part of British Columbia, but in the daytime it was really uncommon. And how they were looking at me, I could sense that they were the ones that sent me the message. And I saw a direct connection to the watchers that I read about in the Book of Enoch. But it was the Book of Thomas that had a bigger effect on me. And also, I started to read about the Hag Hammadi scripts and the Dead Sea Scrolls. I went and spent $100 and I bought a whole bunch of Bibles and a compendium. I bought one that I love called a Surfer's Bible. I throw it in my bag, and it's just like it's real fun, easy, and people see it and they pick it up, you know, if they're curious when they see it, because it's colorful, easy to read, and it's really fun to read. But the amazing thing was, every single day I was getting something from what I was reading, and it was having a much deeper effect on me than anything that I'd previously read. So what I recognized as I started to develop a daily reading curriculum, is I read 5 books a day anyway. Not all, you know what I mean. I learned a trick on TEDx to maximize retention and comprehension. there's videos about this study that says 20 minutes of complete and utter concentration and stop is better than an hour of distracted texting and watching TV while you've got to really focus, because what you want to do is you want the information to reach your inner self. And I know this sounds a little different, but this is what I have been doing. And every day I come back to this forest. I've been working on my meditation. It's very difficult to stop the chatter in the mind. So I also pray at least, well, probably a half a dozen times a day, but 2 times seriously. And I use the prayer right from the Bible that the disciples were told by Jesus. So the Lord's Prayer is a little different. It's, from Sermon on the Mount. But he told his disciples a much more simple version, which I won't repeat it right now, but I like it because it suits me and it's very natural and it works. This is what's amazing. The reason that I'm making this message is because this information works. And what I mean by that is it puts you at peace. And for the first time in my life, I've found something that gives me a deep satisfaction as soon as I immerse myself in it. One day, I read Matthew 5:3, which is, happy are those conscious of their spiritual need. And boom, it hit me. I started crying. I was in sobs, and this never happened from anything that I'd ever read. But it was that verse spoke right to me, because I was happy. And I am happy every time I read the red letters. And if you don't know what the red letters are, that's a little bit more I want to share with you, because there's a bunch of things that I suggest. And it's about the reading. Like, you really have to apply yourself to this. Derek warns all the time, caution that you don't lose your crown. This happens so easily. You have no idea how easy it is to lose your crown. And every day you have to die of this world again so that you can live with peace in your heart. That's what this is all about. But, so just a quick, a bit of things that have helped me, that might help you, is, like I said, I got a whole bunch of books, but a daily reader Bible is really critical because they're marked in each day. And you get some of the Old Testament, some of the New Testament, and a proverb. So it's enough to give you some armor for the whole day. But that's how I look at this whole thing now, is that I'm able to protect my heart, my mind, because I was so unhappy before. And it was a result of the world that we find ourselves in right now. I don't see how anyone could be happy. Look at my beautiful forest. It's burnt to a crisp. Geoengineering has destroyed us, but we may have needed it, according to Naughty Beaver. So, I don't want to get into any of that, but I'll go back to this again, is another book that I found very useful. By the way, there are more intelligent human beings studying this topic than any other topic anywhere in all of human history. So, if you consider yourself a scholar like I do, and a Bible scholar, you're in very good company. And there is a ton of trails to follow. If you're like me, rabbit holes you want to call them, there's a ton of rabbit holes as well. Like, why was the book of Thomas taken out of the New Testament? Who wrote the book of John? That's the greatest single question right there. And I'm fascinated by Mary Magdalene, so I bought a lot of books, one called Peter, Paul, and Mary. And it's so critically important because it describes even that Peter and Paul were at odds with one another. So even the disciples didn't fully understand Jesus' ministry, which is quite easy to grasp if you have some historical context. So that's what I'm also recommending. Great big Reader's Digest, color, pictorial, illustrated, history of Jesus type of thing. I have one that's really, really good, more serious than the Reader's Digest one, but it's called The Historical Jesus, and it's the life and times of a Mediterranean peasant Jew. So that historical context enabled me to wrap my head around why John the Baptist had his head cut off. By who? Who was Herod? How did that affect Jesus when he found out about it? And all of the connections surrounding the politics and the geopolitics of Judea at the time of Jesus. It was a part of Rome. The Romans were really, really tough, ruthless rulers. They didn't take kindly to insurgents and people who were causing a fuss. And Jesus wasn't all that much of a threat, but whatever he was saying must have had some merits, because we're still talking about it today. And for me, I believe that his message was really, really simple, and that religion has caused not only animosity and hatred and war, violence, death, everything else, but it has palled the entire topic of Christ and what he meant, what he was here for. It's actually super, super simple. And that the kingdom of heaven is here, it is now, and it is within all of us. And we have a choice. We can either listen and understand it and embrace it, or we can ignore it and wait until you're on death row, or wherever it might be that you find yourself when you do need God, because God exists, and death row is an example of that. I think we're all on death row personally. It's just that some of us don't know the day of our execution, or the day of our demise, if you rather it another way. But would you rather wait till the day before to seek forgiveness and understand the life ever after? Well, I think you're making a mistake if that's the decision you've taken. And I'm here to tell you that you cannot do yourself any harm by getting your hands on a few of these incredible, incredible documents. The book of Thomas is less than a megabyte big. It fit on your cell phone. I have it on my cell phone. It's only 4 pages when you print it out on both sides of a paper. And by the way, why it's different, and the reason it wasn't put in the New Testament, is because this is the user's guide to becoming a disciple. So, I can't speak highly enough, the book of Thomas. But as Derek and now Malia, and God bless those two for picking up on the red letter disciples. And by the way, red letter, there's a type of a Bible, and it'll say it on the spine that it's a red letter, and what it means is all the words of Christ are in red. So if you're like me, you can basically skip all the black parts and just go to the red parts. But Derek and Malia suggest that the book of John is the richest, most valuable of the 4 Gospels. I'm not saying not to read the other ones, but if you need to start anywhere, start right there. And allow yourself an open enough mind to think that, what if Mary was the author of it? Who was Mary? How does she fit into all of this? Why was she the first person to see Christ after his resurrection? And Lazarus, the story of her brother being brought from the dead, is one of the greatest of the Bible. It's packed with emotion. But again, if you read some of this stuff that I'm suggesting to give you the historical context of what was going on in that day and age, it becomes more clear to you. For example, something you probably didn't realize, but in Jewish tradition, their laws, they had a vision of a Messiah as someone who would come like King David with a sword, and they would retake Jerusalem with force. And when this peasant came along with bare feet and scruffy, they just couldn't relate to him being the one, the Messiah. The word Christos is the Greek word for anointed. So we get the word Christ from Christos. He's the anointed one. All the kings were anointed. Anointment was a really big thing back in those days, and you need to understand all of this stuff. And also what the traditions were of the Jewish population that were allowed to exist in the Roman colony of Judea. And when you get these pieces, it makes the whole story so much more rich. But if you want to look at it as a rabbit hole and look at why the Mary Magdalene part isn't in, by the way, there were 29 different disciples, so they only chose the 4, but other people wrote. Most of the other testimonies are pretty much bits and pieces of the others, except the book of John. It's totally unique and it's fun to read. And again, you don't have to sit down and read the entire thing. But here's my point, is what you want to do is create a time and a space each day in your life where you can shut everything off from the outside world. And I picked up from Naughty Beaver where you play these vibrational frequencies. They use them in yoga and things like that. Megahertz, like there's various different, so it's like a humming noise. And what it does is it helps to drown out any other white noise from background. But it enables me to really concentrate on what I'm reading, because I want to be like Derek. He is, in my mind, the personification of Enoch. And if you know who Enoch is, he's the one man that was the only one left at one time that followed God's laws, and the father of Moses. Or pardon me, of Noah, excuse me. But don't spend a lot of time in the book of Enoch. Don't spend a lot of time in the old scriptures. Try and spread your time around, but focus on the book of John and give it a chance. Because if it works for you like it works for me, look what happens. I gave up all my wants. I hardly eat anything more than what I need anymore. I feel super, super fit. I gave up alcohol. I gave up, well, I didn't really have a drug problem, but I don't touch drugs anymore. I'm not interested in any temptations anymore. I understand why I'm here. I know what I'm to do. This is part of it. When I saw the owls, I was instructed to keep my mouth shut and listen. And that's what I've done, and that's what I'll go back to doing. I'm no longer driven by my ego in any particular way at all. I'm not tweaked by stuff that happens on Facebook. I'm unaffected by people who freak out around me or take me to task because I'm so changed. But I have realized that most of my friends and family, they think that something's happened to me, and they become super self-conscious when I'm around them, because they know that they should stop drinking so much, at least, you know. But hey, everybody's having a party, except me, evidently. But I'm not worried about it. I like who I am now, and people like me a lot more. I don't have anything to prove anymore, and I'm just here as a participant to do my part now, and I know what that is, and I'm so grateful. I just feel like a new person, and that, you know, that's the main thing I wanted to say, is that whatever you're doing, whatever kind of hell you're suffering right now, it doesn't have to be that way. You can end it, and it just takes a plan and it takes action, but you got to be committed and you have to be dedicated. It'd be like learning a language or anything else. If you don't practice every day, you're not going to make any ground. But the reward's phenomenal. And Derek, I love you. Malia, I love you. You guys are just amazing. Please keep doing what you're doing. I can't wait for the next one. You help me. You help me so much. And I want to, you know, say to everybody else the same thing. I love all of you, and I'm here. You can reach out and contact me at any time. I'm glad to help in any way that I can. Thank you very much for watching.